frustrated, sometimes I just need to vomit out my frustrations. And I'll tell you something, and maybe it'll resonate with you. When I'm vomiting my frustrations because I'm in that space, not everything I say should be really looked at with a magnifying glass, right? I will say things that I don't exactly mean. I will over-exaggerate. I will be frustrated, and therefore I'm going to get into a super unreasonable space. And what I need from you at that point is to just hold space for me to finish. Now, I'll tell you why this is important. Very often, if I'm frustrated and I'm saying annoying things, for example, let's say I work really hard and my frustration is like, nobody ever helps me. I don't mean that. Never has anybody ever helped me in the history of all time. What I mean is right now I'm feeling unhelped, and therefore nobody ever helps me and nobody's ever helped me. Now, bear in mind, if a person's spilling out their frustrations, the person to whom they're spilling their frustrations might be a little bit getting a bit of an unfair deal over here, because when I say, I feel totally unhelped, I feel like nobody ever helps me, you're thinking, that's not true. I did help you. I have helped you. So if you jump in at that point and start to say, well, I really take offense to that. Like, that invalidates all the times I've ever helped. I know you're right. I don't mean you've never helped me. What I mean is, this is how I'm feeling right now. If you let me finish, I'm going to become reasonable again because I'll have finished venting. But if, and this is a very natural thing to do, you get very defensive because of my unreasonable attack, and you sort of turn the tables and turn this into about, I can't believe you said that, that's so invalidating. You're confusing me. I just need to vent and to frustrate. I'm not being rational. I know that what I'm saying doesn't stand to reason. But now you've turned all the attention onto what I've done wrong to you, and all I'm trying to do is to vent my frustrations.
And by the way, this dynamic sounds like Ilana is always the one who does this, and it's not how it works at all. It works both ways.
Yeah.
And that's important. But I think that a person's got to learn to realize that tomorrow is another day. And by giving your partner space, you're not really surrendering the morality of the situation. You might be letting them get away with some statements that are not strictly fair, but you know deep down inside that they didn't really mean it. If they really mean it, it'll come up again and again and again and again and again and again, and then maybe it's something that really needs to be confronted and talked about. But most of the time, I think if you just kind of give them that space to use a few exaggerated examples or exaggerated feelings, and without being condescending, oh, I'm sorry, that must have been so hard, without being condescending, but at the same time to kind of give space to that, and not make the mistake of seizing the moral high ground the minute that your partner, who's being a little offensive and a little critical, slips up on one of their examples, and you stab back right there and make the whole thing about that right there. You're doing the marriage a tremendous favor, because as your partner says this exaggeration, they know it's an exaggeration. When you punish them for that, you take the whole thing away. You take all of the venting, all of the calm that follows the venting gets taken away by you nitpicking at the details. Because when a person's in an emotional state, it's really about settling their emotions much more than it is about really focusing on the details of what's being said in every specific point. So I think it's really valuable to be able to kind of step back and say, they need some space here, they need some energy, they need some support. And maybe tomorrow I can mention, I would have preferred it if you hadn't said it like that, or I don't know, it was really fair, but you were in a tough space and like, I get it. Remember, the goal is always to return back to a place of harmony as quickly as possible. You're happier there, I'm happier there, the dog's happier there, everyone's happier there, right? So how do we get back there the fastest? Because that's what's going to make our marriage, our relationship, our parenting, that's what's going to make it actually work. That's what's going to create the environment where everything wonderful can happen. So my goal needs to be allowing for the space and then a return to equilibrium as soon as possible. And if that's your mindset, then you've got a much better chance of bringing peace and also reassurance, and also a partner who feels fully expressed and listened to.
So when I recognize frustration vents as nothing more than frustration vents, and I, instead of waiting till I get attacked in this frustration vent and then defending myself, instead I say, my role here is to recognize that you're in a bad space and I'm going to provide safety for you. And safety means you can say whatever you want. You don't have to be too offensive, but you don't have to be abusive, right? But you can say whatever you want. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be too careful. You can finish your vent, and I'm holding safe space. That's the most I can do at that point to allow you to bring yourself back to equilibrium. I can't bring my partner back to equilibrium. They have to bring themselves back to equilibrium. But I can, by being sensible enough to recognize this as nothing personal, just them in a bad space, I can know that my role is to provide enough safety so that they can bring themselves back to the equilibrium that we both need.